Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the 19th Wild and Scenic Film Festival, hosted by the South Yuba River Citizens League, affectionately referred to as Circle. If you're just joining us now, you are watching the Rise Beyond Gold mining again in Nevada County workshop. We are very pleased to have a diverse panel with us today, as well as the esteemed filmmaker, Jennifer Ekstrom of Rise Beyond Gold, featured in our Local Loves film session. Hopefully you have watched it before tuning into today's workshop. Again, my name is Ashley Overhouse. I work for Circle, or the South Yuba River Citizens League. I'm the River Policy Manager, and I am very pleased to welcome everyone to this workshop today. For brief introductions, I would like to again welcome our filmmaker, Jennifer Ekstrom, and we are going to be moderated today by the 21-year veteran of Nevada County News and esteemed editor of YubaNet, Pascale. We are also joined by Ralph Silverstein, Community Environmental Advocates Foundation, or CEA Foundation, Mike Shea, community member and impacted property owner from the mine, Shelley Covert, Secretary, Community Outreach and spokesperson for the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan Tribal Council, and Izzy Martin, CEO of the Sierra Fund. So without further ado, I'll hand it off to Jen to just give us an update and set the stage for the workshop.
Thank you, Ashley. So I am a filmmaker who is committed to making films that make a difference on critical environmental issues. And so I'll just start by saying it's a great honor to have Rise Beyond Gold selected to screen at Wild and Scenic Film Festival, the film festival that's known as the one where activism gets inspired. And to also know that this film has inspired this very workshop, which is designed to engage the community at a deeper level in helping to address this mine. And it's my great pleasure to join this team of esteemed panelists and to be a part of the movement to stop the Idaho Maryland mine from reopening. When I first heard about this mine proposal, the thing that really struck me was the age-old story of an extractive industry coming into a community, taking the resources, while ultimately leaving citizens and taxpayers to deal with a toxic mess that would last for generations to come. And I get really passionate about exposing this type of injustice. So I immediately knew I wanted to make a film to help with our community advocacy. And from the first phone call I made, just poking around to see if there was interest and support for a film of this sort, it was truly astounding how quickly the momentum built, from the amazing film crew that came together to the participants in the film and those we interviewed for background research. Every single person was astounding in their quick responses and their dedication to helping us get it done in a very short period of time. So Rise Beyond Gold is the story of our community response to an effort to reopen a relic gold mine in Grass Valley, California. Our town has literally grown up around that mine since it closed in the 1950s. And by reopening this mine, our community will face a slew of environmental and social impacts, which you'll learn a lot more about during this workshop for the next hour. And with that, I will turn it over to our moderator, Pascale. Thank you.
And thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for inviting me to be the moderator for this workshop. So what I would like to do would be that to introduce, so have our panelists actually introduce themselves and talk about their organizations and how this mine is impacting them. And let's start with somebody where this mine is really very near, and that would be Mike Shea. Welcome, and Mike, do tell us what's happening in your backyard.
Well, the mine literally is in my backyard. My backyard fence, the other side of it is the mine property. And if I walk my dog down there, and I can see the stakes in the ground where they're going to put the engineered fill. So they're going to be cutting out a whole lot of forest that's back there. There's deer, there's coyotes, there's rabbits, there's owls, there's raccoons, there's skunks. I mean, there are all kinds of animals. We have a bear running through there every once in a while. So it's like all this habitat's going to be gone, and what's going to be there in its place is just this huge pile of what they call engineered fill. So it's just this barren rock that's just going to be piled up there. And I mean, I could go on, but other than that, we're going to have a mine operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop noise back there. And it's just going to be horrible to be living where I live, and I love where I live, and I would like to stay here, but there's no way I'll be able to if that mine is approved.
And just one more question, Mike. Are you on NID or municipal water or on a well?
Fortunately, I'm on NID, so I don't need to worry about the water issue.
But I think somebody who's really worrying about the water issue would be Ralph and his organization. So Ralph, what is CEA? Who is CEA? And why are you so concerned about this?
Yes, thank you. CEA, Community Environmental Advocates, is a local group that works for a sustainable community, and we comment on projects of concern. And we're very concerned about this project because it's basically a disaster pending. And so, you know, we actually addressed the mine the last time they tried to open it in around 2008, 2010 timeframe. And so we're having to deal with the same problem again, and that is it is a threat to our local groundwater, our habitat, our community, the air we breathe. It's we have the threat of air pollution, noise, vibrations, traffic, and huge greenhouse gas emissions. It just doesn't really belong here. And so we've started a campaign to stop it. We've created a website. You can visit it at minewatchnc.org and get involved. And right now we're just doing everything we can to get people involved, to comment on it, to review the project, to understand it, and help to stop it.
And of course, there we will repeat these URLs and links for everybody to get involved, because that's something that's pretty important. And I'd like to go to Shelley Covert. Shelley, you and your organizations, you have been dealing with this, well, basically longer than anybody else.
Yes, that's right, Pascale, thank you. You know, the tribe, the Nevada City Rancheria Indian tribe has not, you know, we haven't really weighed in on this topic yet publicly. I can tell you, and you, as you well may imagine, that the subject of gold mining and the history of gold mining here for the Nisenan people is, I mean, it's extremely, extremely deep. You know, I understand that we are in a modern time. We're in modern America. We all drive. You know, I turn on my lights. I have my computer. I understand I'm part of this extractive way of life. You know, usually it's not in my backyard, so I don't see it. I'm sure my cell phone is made in some other country whose those people are the ones being impacted by any certain thing at any given time. But, you know, having, like, I think of the gold rush in the past. I really do. You know, I speak in a historic, like in a memory, and, oh, you know, so-and-so, grandma, great-great-grandma, this happened to them. And I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but I find it just so absurd that the conversation is even happening again here. You know, gold was discovered in Nisenan territory, and there was a genocide of the Nisenan people here. There are very, very few of us that are left. We survive, we all live, we're mostly assimilated. I mean, we hold our culture very closely to us, and we're working extremely hard to protect that culture. But that I'm even here today with you all having this conversation really has impacted me on so many levels that I haven't really been able to sort through it all yet. Like, gold belongs in the ground. If you believe, and I understand that a lot of people don't believe this way, but the planet is a being, it's alive. We all rely on it. You know, it always sounds cliche because the Indians always say, well, the earth is our mother, you know, and I know reading old history books, like, it's such an eye roll for people. Because obviously the earth didn't physically and literally birth us, you know, but it it did, and it does. We rely on it for everything. And, you know, I play music, I'm on the computer a lot, and I know that gold is used for transition, like the best coils and the best, playing music, like if you have gold chords, like you get the best signal transmitted. I believe that that's like the Earth's neurons. Like this is what it needs to function in a way that I don't believe that humanity is really, it's not in a book somewhere, you can go look it up. So I really believe that. A lot of our tribal elders believe that taking from the earth over and over and over again is not okay. But that if we can look back not very long ago and see what happened. You can look at the hydraulic mining damage. You can look at our rivers. You can see the damage. You can see it. It's not hidden from us. It's so obvious here. And that we're even having the conversation again today. You know, last week it was about a dam. This week it's about opening another mine. And I'm here to tell people that the science, they might try to prove something to you on paper that it's not going to hurt. It always does. It always hurts someone. Like he just said, there are families of animals living there that are going to be, their habitat is just gone. It's gone. And so, you know, I'm just here to remind folks, it wasn't that long ago that this place was a place of beauty, and there were people here with religion and a history and families and a whole ecosystem that was, I don't want to say perfect because I don't think anything's perfect, but it's what we strive for today as environmental and conscientious people. It already was, and it was destroyed, and it was destroyed because of gold. So I'm sorry that took so long to say. I'm struggling as I speak out loud to not get super emotional about it, because I think emotions get in the way of getting stuff done sometimes for me. But why are we doing it again? Why is this even a conversation today? Could you look at my family history, my family tree, and put it in your report and explain why that's okay? I just think that people need to understand that there is no way something like this can happen without it harming anybody. And yeah, I can't believe it's even a conversation.
Well said.
Yeah, thanks, Shelley.
Now let's, after this, now let's go on to the one who has seen a couple gold mines projects come before her, be that as a planning commissioner, as a supervisor, and now as the CEO of the Sierra Fund. Izzy, do tell us what is the Sierra? What is the Sierra Fund, and how are you involved in this?
Thank you, Pascale. I have to thank the Wild and Scenic Film Festival and Circle for this opportunity to be on a panel with such, we're all apparently quite esteemed. I heard that word a few times, but people that are doing the real work in the community where we lived, which I think is the essence of democracy. So I'm really pleased to be part of this forum. I have to say this is very much a part of what the mission of the Sierra Fund is. 20 years ago, we started the Sierra Fund. Our mission is to restore resiliency to the Sierra Nevada from what happened during the gold rush. I'm shocked to hear environmentalists say things like, oh, the pristine forest, the untouched forest, we need to protect every tree. I don't know, they're certainly not talking about California if they're talking about some pristine forest, because almost all of the trees were cut down for the gold rush. Almost all of the rivers were dammed, and thousands of miles of tunnels and ditches were dug to convey that water where it had not been before, used to blow mountains apart looking for gold. And the other piece of that I find difficult is that when my people got here 200 years ago, this wasn't a natural, untouched by man, perfect from God. This landscape had been managed for thousands of years by very sophisticated people who had very sophisticated cultures And it was all working real well. It was very resilient. It could stand fire, it could stand earthquake, it could stand drought, it could stand snowstorm. We wrecked all of that, and now our effort to try to restore some kind of resiliency, it can never be what it was before. We have to make something work again. The people that understand that better than anybody are the people that were here before. They had been managing it really darn well for thousands of years. So they know what it should look like. They know what needs to be done, but they don't really have we invented insurance. We invented permitting. We invented, you have to own the land. So there's many barriers between what happened then and what's happening now. So hearing what Shelley has to say, I think all of us understand that there's a lot of work to do to restore where we live. But Shelley also said brilliantly, as she often is, people somehow think this happened a long time ago and now it's all been cleaned up and we don't have to worry about it anymore. Not so. This is a new gold mine on an old gold mine that was never remediated. I live on top of the Idaho Maryland Mine. I actually also live on an old other gold mine that was never remediated. We all live in Grass Valley on an unremediated gold mine. Many people in the gold country do. So as we fight this gold mine, we're not only fighting this current proposal, but we're fighting the 170-year-old technology and the impacts it's still having on us. And in this community, the Sierra Fund has tried to support this effort by being very good at the scientific piece so that we're exactly accurate when it comes to Western scientific knowledge. We know a lot about remediation. Our scientist, Dr. Carrie Monahan, is in Jennifer's gorgeous film, talking about mercury, talking about the contaminated water, talking about, we're concerned about exposure through dust, we're concerned about these existing legacy issues. So when on top of that old gold mine, you put a new gold mine and say that somehow you're not responsible for cleaning up what happened before, and you're trying to leave that out of the environmental review, and you're trying to leave that out of the public conversation and the scope, then you want us to all suspend disbelief again about how bad, the impacts might be. So I really have to say that if people are interested in learning more about the general issue, and a lot of the Sierra Fund's done a lot of research, and we have a lot of different mines and meadows and forests that we're working to restore, you can go on our website at sierrafund.org. But I know that the activist edge of this movement is on the CEA website. CEA has really been pulling together experts and creating a forum for community experts to be engaged in this fight, so that, Shelley doesn't have to do it alone, and I don't. And instead, they sort of create this coalition where everybody's expertise can come in the room like a great potluck dinner that's very well organized. Everybody didn't just bring salad. We have everything around the table. And but as we learn, every movement takes another human being, more and more of us who are come and bring your special skills. So I want to thank the Film Festival for this opportunity for us to say, let's all stand together, defend our community. Let's do what should have been done 200 years ago. Let's defend this place.
Thank you, Izzy. And Jennifer, I am, after of course watching the movie, you of course focused on the proposed reopening by yet another Canadian junior mining company, but you also touched on the larger issue of gold, because Shelley mentioned that we all have phones. It's technology that is partially driven or facilitated with some gold components, that we can actually have this discussion, that we can have that the whole festival this time it's possible to have a virtual festival. But I believe one of the last frames of your movie actually talks about the percentage of total gold production that is actually used in technology. So if you, could you remind us of that? And then maybe we could, because after that, I want to ask Shelley about gold and gold as jewelry, etc. But Jennifer, first, please remind us, what's the percentage of gold that's being produced that's actually used in technology?
That was 8% of gold is used in technology. And so the rest of it, you know, there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but the vast majority of gold is stored. It's in central banks, it's in investments. And so it's really doing nothing, it's just sitting there. So my philosophy, my opinion about it is that, well, we already have all that gold sitting there. We have enough gold in our society to apply to the technology that we need and that we use every day. We have that if we would just repurpose it. And so I don't see any need to be mining new gold under the pretense that it's for technology.
And Shelley, I mean, I could be completely off base, but I don't think that you and your people ever used gold as jewelry. You left the gold where it was.
Yeah, and it wasn't, I know there's some stories that right at the time of the gold rush, when the value of gold obviously became apparent, I know some of the leaders, one of our head women had a gold nugget necklace, but that was only because there was a new, like, oh, that's like worth something, you know, then you wear it because it's a status symbol. Like we use
it was the latest fashion.
And it was, that was after contact, you know, but before that, no, there's no use for it because it's soft, you know, it's kind of useless. It's heavy. I know they used it for fishing weights and things like that, but you know, it really doesn't have a lot of practical use. And we're not like some of the Southern indigenous folks who saw the beauty in it and like just covered everything in it. We didn't do that there. Maybe, I don't know why. I'm not sure what their reasoning was. But no, they just, no. You know, and I went to South Dakota. My band was on the road like a long time ago. And I had heard the fight that was going on with the Black Hills. And I used to love the Black Hills gold rings. And once I met a girl, we were playing in this bar and she was a waitress and she was part Indian, and she was talking about the Sacred Hills, and they had something going on right at that moment. And I got rid of all my jewelry because I felt dirty. You know, I don't know how relevant that is to the conversation now, but I guess because I got to meet her and hear what was going on in their sacred place sounded so much like our sacred place out here. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to participate in that. So I just gave away all my jewelry, and it didn't really make me feel better, but I felt like at least I wasn't participating in whatever that pain was for her.
That is one of, I believe that is one of the goals that this film festival and that a lot of the organizations represented here are, to actually make people realize what it does. It's that it's not just, well, that it's not just a yet another project that will wind its way through the various bureaucracies, but it is something that has direct impact on people, on places and people here and beyond. And one of the things that is talked about a lot in the movie is the impact that the dewatering will have on the both on the mine, on Wolf Creek, on people's wells. And one of the questions that we got is from Teresa, who says, "What is the estimated number of folks who have well water in Nevada County?" And Ralph, do you have that number?
Well, I don't have the number for the county, but we do have a pretty good estimate of the number of wells that are just within, say, within 1,000 feet of the mineral rights. And realize the mineral rights to this project are immense. The mine on the surface only covers about 175 acres between the two sites, but underground it's 2,585 acres. It goes all the way from under the hospital to all the way across town and under the airport. And it goes up to the Glenbrook Basin Shopping Center and all the way down to Highway 174, Cedar Ridge neighborhoods. And in that huge area, there are over 900 pieces of property, and there's several hundred wells that could be impacted. But to go to a broader area, because obviously if you're going a couple thousand feet down below the surface, you could have impacts on wells that are a couple thousand feet away from the mineral rights zone. So we estimate well over 300 wells could be impacted, depending on where they're situated, how they are. I could talk about the hydrology and so forth, but it's really a question of, if you're dewatering the mine and you're sucking all that water out, you create a cone of water, groundwater that's sucked out, and it basically has unpredicted impacts to the
unpredicted impacts, because this area we are in, unlike for example the Central Valley, we have the area here is fractured granite, so there is not really groundwater. It's all water that is in fissures, and these fissures are or are not connected. And actually they're mapping fractured granite is something that's basically very labor intensive, incredibly expensive, and then still not 100%. So it could be that if you, and I believe Jennifer says that in the movie, you stick a rather large straw into this watershed, you don't know which ones of the fishes will be dewatered completely, and they could be at quite a distance away. And that is something that actually we have already seen in Nevada County. That has already happened. It happened on the ridge. Years ago, it happened on the ridge, and there are still sequels there. And Kathleen asked, how is it possible to place a moratorium on keeping mining from occurring at previous mine sites for many years to come, so we don't need to fight the situation time and again? And I think, Izzy, can you reach back in time and put on your supervisor and planning commissioner hat and tell us why, sadly, that's a no-go?
Well, there's a bunch of reasons why that's a no-go, and probably the biggest one is the federal law that was just a few years old, just signed by Ulysses S. Grant, the 1872 Surface Mining Act, which says that the best and highest use of any property is mining. You cannot ban a technology, you can only ban an impact. The county could say that we aren't going to permit any mines that don't meet these kinds of criteria. They have a general plan. Counties do have a great deal of discretion over land use permitting, but there is I think a question that would need to be understood about whether or not you could just adopt a moratorium on one kind of land use activity, given especially that there's existing mining. People seem to think that mining ended long ago. There's active gold mining in Nevada County right now. There's an open pit gold mine up at French Corral. So it's sort of like saying, well, they'll never let them start fracking in California. Well, get in a time machine and go back 40 years. So it's a little hard to just want to solve this problem on this piece of property with one law like that. As a result of our experience here, the Sierra Fund did work very closely with Governor Jerry Brown, who in his 4th term as governor wanted to fix a thing that had happened in his 1st term as governor when the Surface Mining Act was passed. And he worked with the Sierra Fund and basically I want to call them the responsible members of the mining industry to clean up the Surface Mining Act in California. So it's stronger now. There's more requirements for better financial assurances, inspections, planning. I think we really need to continue to fight the fight to get the county to come into the 21st century about how they permit any activity on an abandoned mine, whether it's this abandoned mine having a new mine put on top of it, or another thing we've done quite a bit in Nevada County and elsewhere. Let's put a school there on the abandoned mine. Let's put a trail on the abandoned mine. Sometimes the right thing to do to an abandoned mine is to put on a parking lot. If it's a dusty exposure, I mean, not every piece of ground is going to be able to be returned to how it was 200 years ago. So I would say I guess you could explore the possibility. Everybody seems to think it would be very hard to just ban mining on this place or even in this county without some sort of I just don't think that it's possible, but I do think the county could up its game in what it requires. The last time this mine came through, it was in the city of Grass Valley, had lead agency that time. And they were trying to say, well, we're not even going to ask how they're going to clean up the abandoned mine. They'll do that later when they're done with all the gold mining. So 80 years from now, we'll start thinking about how to clean up the mess from 100 years ago. I think that didn't work then. I don't think it's going to work now. So rather than trying some very difficult lift, I think it's easier to point out that the one thing that the business likes the least of all is uncertainty.
Yes, and the
unknowability.
And they're not cleaning up. They're not cleaning up until after all mining operations were done. That could probably have been called peak deferred maintenance. So, but
so the point is, they can't know what's happening underground. It's unknowable. So they have known unknowns, but they have unknown unknowns, and it becomes very, very risky. So the question really is this even a viable economic activity? Now, the county can't stop somebody from putting in a losing business, but the county can require that we are all protected. So if that business happens to go bankrupt because it's a really crazy idea, we aren't left with a mess.
And I think that is a good segue into the next question from Marianne, who says, can someone tell us what daily activities Rise Gold intends to do that create noise and pollution and disruption? And maybe Mike and then Ralph, maybe the two of you could tackle that one.
So they would be blasting underground every day, although they say we won't hear that. So let's just assume we don't hear that. But all that rocks, that's 1,500 tons of rock a day, are going to be taken up. And man, I'm losing my words, but they're going to take it up above. There's that concrete silo at the corner of East Bennett and Brunswick. So they're going to take it up higher than that and then dump it down into that silo. And then they're going to have a 335-foot conveyor that's going to take it into a processing plant where it'll be ground. Some of it will be ground down even finer than it is now. 1,000 tons a day will be dumped into steel-lined haul trucks and then hauled off-site. And the other 500 tons will be mixed with a concrete slurry and then pumped back under the mine. So, I mean, you can't tell me that transporting 1,500 tons of rock a day up 6 stories and then dropping it down and then conveying it across a conveyor and putting it in this processing plant building isn't going to have a lot of noise. Well, then you're going to have the diesel trucks, the haul trucks, which will run. I don't remember the exact times. I think from like 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning, and they'll have a 12-hour shift. So they'll be going and coming back to the mine site every single day, hauling 1,000 tons a day, basically. And they expect to have between 50 and 100 round trips a day of these trucks. So it's going to be very noisy. Not to mention the employees driving into the parking lot, saying hi to their buddies. It's going to be very loud. At night, they're going to have a lot of lights on. The site will be lit every single night. I think it's something like 10,000 lumens every night. So, besides the noise pollution, there's going to be light pollution. And we're not even talking about the air quality pollution that's going to be generated by the mine. So I don't know. Did I answer the question about the noise?
That is from from one person that really is going to be impacted. And I think, Ralph, we're getting quite a bit of questions also about the impacts of the dewatering and the cone of groundwater. So can you pick that up, please?
Sure. I would just help to comment on what Mike said, which was quite good. And also there's going to be all the grading and compacting equipment that be spreading this gravel on 2 different sites over the course of 11 years. And you'll have this operating every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And, you know, they'll have the backup beepers beeping and everything. So this is another thing which I don't know about you folks, but when you're near a construction site and you hear those beepers going all day long, it can really drive you crazy. Regarding the cone of depression for the groundwater, there was a hydrogeological study that was done that has estimated what the total impact of the dewatering would be. And they made a number of simplifying assumptions. They assumed that the rock was pretty much homogeneous. They assumed that the mining would take place kind of in a limited area of the mineral rights and below, most of it below 1,000 feet below the surface. And so they came up with a model, and even that model showed that a pretty large area will have the groundwater level will drop 5 feet. And they have a topog map that shows this. So this is on their model. And so there's a number of wells in that area that they've already identified. Well, there's even a larger area that they predict that the water level will drop 1 foot. And this is all assuming, I mean, what happens if when they're tunneling, they hit another fault or a fracture, as you mentioned before, or maybe a tunnel that they didn't know about, or some other irregularity in the ground structure, and that would just blow the whole model out of proportion. So we feel that's an extremely conservative model, and it doesn't allow for the fact that that's only assuming that the mining activities are confined to this small subsection of their mineral rights. And they've indicated that they're going to do that for the first 20 years, but they haven't really said where they're going to go from there. But so legally, they have the right to mine anywhere within 200 feet of the surface over this whole 2,500 plus acres. And so I think that the cone of depression for water is just such a huge unknown. If people lose water in their well, or if the water goes down, how are they going to establish the cause, and how are they going to be compensated for that? It's just a huge unknown and a huge risk to people who have wells in the whole area. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you, Rob. And
another very significant impact that these two both know about, but just it's the impact of where does that water go? It doesn't just disappear, it gets poured into Wolf Creek. And you know, in the winter, our streams and creeks are used to being full of water. But in the middle of summer, they're slow, they're warm. They're going to put ice cold water 24 hours a day or however often into Wolf Creek. It's going to scour the creek. There's potentially very important biological impacts on that. And there could be water quality impacts, because already this is the same ore body that is producing the mine drainage that was eating Grass Valley's septic system. It's the same stuff that was coming out of Empire Mine's groundwater acidic drainage. So it's a metallic drainage. So the water that's going to be spilled out is very problematic and will be very visible with the scouring of this creek all the time.
those of course are all impacts that are likely to happen, and they should be all addressed in the environmental impact report. Well, what now is a draft environmental impact report, the DEIR, that is right now being prepared by the county. So to be clear, Rise Gold is paying for this impact report that is being done right now. But there are of course questions as in how can people provide input into this project and into the decision of the Planning Commission and ultimately the Board of Supervisors as the lead agency for this project. Because this time around, this corporation went to the County of Nevada to be the lead agency. The previous incarnation of this project, which was M Gold, went to the city of Grass Valley, and then after a number of years and a lot of work by a lot of people, basically fizzled away because out of lack of their mining for investors didn't go too well. So they basically ran out of money. So now we have there is a new Canadian junior mining company with a they have no track record in the United States. They have, however, a track record in Canada where the CEO of Rise Gold is in some time will have to appear again before Canadian courts for a spill that occurred with one of the previous companies that he worked for. But now let's turn to how people can get involved here in Nevada County, be that to oppose or support the project, because as the project, as they have stressed, they will create some 300 and some jobs in Nevada County. Not all of them will be really high-paying jobs, but it's 300 jobs, and especially in these times, we'll have to be fair and say that, yeah, there are 300 jobs that will be created. We don't know what the impact is on the existing industries in the area. There is already some light industry in the area that they would theoretically mine under some very sensitive laboratory equipment, etc. So how can now people get involved in the process and make their voice heard to the county? What are the steps to be taken? And I'm going to call on you, Ralph, again. How can people know when there is the time to comment and where to comment? How does that work?
Yes, thank you. In general, the most recent news we've heard is that the county is still waiting, or the consultant who's preparing the draft environmental impact report is waiting for revisions to some of the technical studies that were submitted. And this is not the first time that they've put off the time frame in which they expect the draft environmental impact report to be published, and it very well may not be the last time. But the most recent estimate was that late spring or early summer, the draft environmental impact report would be available for the public. And then, of course, we'll have a review.
Available?
That will be made available at the county. One way to keep informed on this, as you were asking, is to go to the Mine Watch NC website and sign up for the newsletter that we produce every couple of weeks to keep informed on what's going on. And also there you can find information about things that you can do now, such as writing letters to your county and city representatives. Learning about the mine is a big help, learning about the actual facts of the mine so you can understand what it is that the concerns are about, and you can submit comments that are appropriate. So those are two things you could do. I know we have people who have volunteered to go and walk neighborhoods or to attend meetings, and at this point, we just have to wait until this comment period comes, and then we have to fully try to respond to it in an effective way.
And just to give people an idea, the EIRs and the DEIRs are, it's more than just a little light nighttime reading. It's generally several hundred pages, but they will be available on the county website. They will post those. So, and actually I believe that you can sign up to follow the projects on the county website as well. If you go to mynevadacounty.com and you go to the community development agency, the planning, they have their project, and it's one of the projects. But some of the questions that we're getting is with the dewatering, of the mine. Is there could that potentially cause or be a risk for more wildfires? Is there would there be a correlation between dewatering the mine and taking this water and having it go downstream and maybe more wildfires? Izzy, I don't know if your lead scientist has looked into that, but that would definitely be something. I know that wildfire is something where everybody's very concerned here.
Well, I mean, I see a couple of different elements of that. One would be that if if you can't turn, if your well's dewatered and the fire's coming through, even if you have a generator, you won't be able to defend your house. I can see that being an issue for people. I mean, there's one side of it where when they rip down the forest and it's just a bunch of naked rock, well, that's not going to be fire danger. But it could have impacts on the forest around it, that kind of interruption of water flow, of how forest works. Already our forests are not natural forests. These are not what they're supposed to look like. There's Himalayan blackberry and Scotch broom. They are not from here. There's a lot of problems in our forests, and the more we, I want to call it, go in the wrong direction, the more we fail to steward our resources, take seriously the challenges around us, to rebuild our forests as healthy forests, healthy meadows, the better. This is just the wrong. It doesn't help anything get better. I mean, I don't want to say that we all hate mining, we all hate gold. If we could just use that Star Trek thing where you just sort of beam it up out of the rock, no impact, we'd be happy. But it's never that way. It's always this. That's the nature of mining. It's going to be enormously destructive. So could these trucks increase traffic along the road? Maybe increasing the warming of that road, maybe a spark. I could see that there could be a connection, but I think it's more true that it would be just another continued terrific disruption to our creek system, our forest system, our community. And then what about that air quality? Those trucks going up and down East Bennett Street all the time, that could increase the potential impacts on our environment. So, but if I was a homeowner up there, I would be very concerned about my ability to not be able to keep my place wet in the event of a storm coming, a firestorm coming.
And not to mention that the state of our forest, like you rightfully said, I mean, it's very different. The density of the forest that we have right now, the fuel load we have on the forest right now, because basically for like 2 centuries or so, we have not done what was done before, which was manage forest and manage it by fire. Now everybody is going back to prescribed burns to actually get the fuel load down a little bit and maybe restore some of the forest to what it used to be, what it was before. But there is this other thing that we haven't talked about at all, and that is the power requirement for for the operation that would be there. And I don't know if in the upcoming EIR they will talk about it, but if I recall correctly, the last EIR for the last project, it was there was actually that much energy requirements that it would actually raise the temperature over Grass Valley, because there was so much. The energy requirement was like 6,000 or 7,000 single-family homes, and the same energy requirement than 6,000 or 7,000 single-family homes. We all know what happens when in the summer, or apparently these times, even in the spring, summer, and especially in the fall, when we have high winds and the fire danger is high. What happens is PG&E will shut-off power, what we now lovingly refer to as PSPS, or public safety power shutoffs. I have not seen anywhere the backup power, or if there is backup power planned for the project. I think that's something that will come out in the EIR, but the power requirements are pretty amazing. And Mike, maybe you have more details there?
Yeah, they do have a backup power plan with four large generators that they would kick on when PG&E shuts off the power. So they basically they need to run 24/7. They can't stop. Ralph and myself had a meeting with Ben Mossman, and we asked him, you know, can't you just run the mine 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, whatever? And he said, no, they cannot shut the equipment down. It's not economical. And if they shut it down, then they have to clean everything out before they can start it up again. So they just can't shut down. So yeah, they've got, I think it's 30,000. I don't want to say a figure that I'm not sure about, but yeah, they have a backup power plant. They were just going to kick on generators and keep running.
They have it's a 6,000 kilowatt hour generator system. I just like to add that, yeah, we've estimated well over 5,000 houses worth of energy usage just in electricity. To put it in perspective, the Nevada County has a energy action plan, and the goal of the energy action plan is to reduce the energy use of residents in the county by 42 million kilowatt hours a year, and this project will consume almost exactly 42 million kilowatt hours a year. So it'll completely erase the county's energy action plan. And in this age of climate change and our concern about global warming and the threat of fires that generates, I mean, this project also will release somewhere on the order of over 10,000 gigatons of, 10,000 tons of greenhouse gases annually, metric tons of greenhouse gases annually.
And can you give us a comparison of 10,000 tons of metric tons of greenhouse gas? That is akin to how many cars, for example?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know, but it does qualify as significant impact. There's several significant impacts from this project, and yeah, that'll be one of them.
Mm-hmm. And we have the question about how can a decision to be transferred to a public referendum instead of the ultimately the Board of Supervisors. I don't think that is possible because the project is they have already filed with the county, and so it would be unfair to all of a sudden say, well, we don't think that where this is going is the right way, so now let's come up with another way of deciding. Once the Board of Supervisors has approved the project, then of course there are other things. There is the state has some input, both at the water resources and maybe for the reclamation plan. There's some input from the state. The city has some input, and it is really through the public, the public making their wishes known is what's going to influence Board of Supervisors, because the way government works is, well, the squeaky wheel will be heard. So again, that is where it comes in with the public, reading the DEIR when it comes out, attending meetings, filing comments, and getting involved with the organizations that are represented here. And also, Jennifer, your movie, where will it be available other than through the festival? Because we have people that want to watch it again and again.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks. It's produced by my media production company called Catalyst Communication Services. And so I have a website and social media, and I do have plans to release it on my website. Additionally, there's interest from Nevada County Media, who is our local public access broadcasting station. They were instrumental in helping me get the footage of their interview with Ben Mossman, the CEO of Rise Gold. And there's a possibility that it will be aired on the local community access station as well.
Great, and I'm sure that if that when that is scheduled, I'm sure Ramona and of NC Media will let us know. And please, Jennifer, don't forget to let the rest of us media types know how this is worked. Shelley, really back to you, because hey, you are getting a ton of reactions from people that are watching us, and it's too bad we can't see everybody who's watching and reacting. But uh, how can we today help support you? And I know that recently the Board of Supervisors, after I don't know how many years, at least 20 years, finally said, hey, well, we want to help you to regain federal recognition. What can the community do to support the Nisenan?
Thank you so much. So the best way is to go to nisenan.org, which is NISENAN.org. And we've been working really hard to get our history, a lot of information, the outreach campaign that we've been doing for a couple of years now, pretty strongly trying to get the tribe more visible. You know, it all ties together. I feel that, you know, in a lot of the environmental things that go on, you know, we get requests for consultation on some projects. It's really hit and miss because we are not federally recognized. So that would be a mandated thing if we were federally recognized tribe, and we would have so much more power if we had federal recognition. I mean, federally recognized tribes are domestic sovereign nations, and you know, we would just have a seat at the table in a way that we don't today. We do sometimes by invitation, but like I said, it's really super hit and miss. I think that just for our place where we all live, I think, you know, our voices are pretty aligned with a lot of the movement that goes on here. And if we had a bigger voice, I mean, it would only help everybody. In that way, if we were federally recognized. So you can go to nisenan.org. You can always reach me. You know, we have Facebook and social media presence now. We're going to be opening a brick and mortar spot in Nevada City pretty soon. We're hoping to open in the spring. So then we'll actually be like somewhere physical where people can come and find us. And this, you know, just to amplify the voice and to raise our visibility. But you know, I can't help but after hearing all this, you know, and from what I said at the beginning of the conversation, it's just, you know, it's like my grandpa's voice, like Mr. Logical, that's always in my head, like the typical old stoic, quiet Indian dude, you know, that was just so my grandfather. It's just, it's the way our country works, the way that corporations have the ability to come in and buy mineral rights below our houses. That, I mean, we're, you know, growing up riding horses around the ridge, you know, you just didn't go riding off somewhere because you would fall in a flipping mine shaft somewhere. It was like very real. Like my mom had people that she knew that like fell down mine shafts and died. Like it's a thing that I think a lot of people don't probably didn't grow up with, you know, like this is the mining legacy here. And to think that that continues on today, and that somebody, especially from a different country, especially in these times of America, you know, can come in and just like take part of Grass Valley away and haul it off. Like that too is just like, who like wrote the rule book here? How is that even a thing? The same with the bottled watering companies. Like you just go in and like that is our water in this geographic community where we live. We have very limited resources and it's ours and it should be pristine and our kids should be able to drink it. My mom was just talking the other day about how they used to drink out of all the streams. And like nobody does that anymore. You can't do that. And I mean, it's just it's so bizarre. I wish we could all work together to get, I mean, I know a lot of people work on those fronts in legislation to get that story changed. Like, what gives the right somebody to just truck in, take out part of Grass Valley, you know, for 300 jobs? A lot of people are doing really bad right now. And at the expense of a job that you can just haul off part of Grass Valley, probably destroy the water, ruin people's lives by shaking their land and like ruining all the habitat. I mean, who wrote this book? I just don't understand. Where are the adults in the room? It's just not okay on so many levels. And I do feel that if the tribe was recognized, we would have a bigger voice. I would love to have some more power behind me. As I get older, I'm just like, you know, give me that power. Let me go. But I thank you. Please check out our website. There's so much information there. And let's get some adults in the room to start taking care of this planet. I think it should be.
You know, I think this is probably a really great point where we can stop, and maybe we could, some of you, if you have time, there's probably room in the virtual lobby, and maybe if people are interested, if you have time. What I want to do right now is hand it back over. First of all, say thank you to everybody who watched it. Thanks to all of you for taking the time to come and be our expert panel. And with that, I'm just going to hand it right back to Ashley.
Thank you, Pascale. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for attending and participating and sharing your expertise with us today at the 19th Wild and Scenic Film Festival. I so appreciate it. This is just the beginning of a discussion and of a community movement, and I cannot wait to see if all of us join forces truly. I think that this is just the beginning, and please remember to stay engaged, take action, be inspired by this film festival, by Rise Beyond Gold, by these people before you. So if you would, again, please join us for the virtual lobby to continue this discussion and share your thoughts. If not, I will see you all very soon, hopefully in person. Thank you all so much again. Take care.
Thank you.